In an oligopoly, firms consider each other's decisions when making their own decisions. This is because firms are not only affected by their own decisions, but also by decisions of other firms in the market. Game theory illustrates situations where each firm, when deciding on an action, considers how others might respond to that action. Let's look at an example. A quick and simple example of game theory is the prisoner dilemma. In this example, there are two prisoners with weak evidence against them. The prisoners can either stay silent or confess to the crime. If prisoner 1 stays silent and prisoner 2 also stays silent, then they would be released.
Yeah! Oh, better luck next time, buddy! Woo!
But if he confesses, he would get a 15-year sentence. And if prisoner 1 confesses and prisoner 2 also confesses, he would get a 10-year sentence.
Oh, well.
But if he stays silent, he would get a life sentence. Same goes for prisoner 1. If prisoner 2 stays silent and prisoner 1 also stays silent, he will be released. But if he confesses, he would get a 15-year sentence. If prisoner 2 confesses and prisoner 1 stays silent, he would get a life sentence. But if he also confesses, he would get a 10-year sentence. Fearful that the other prisoner will confess, both prisoners' better choice would be to confess to the crime, and not risk getting a life sentence.
I'm too young to die.
Even though they would each be better off staying silent. Dominant strategy. This is the best decision for a firm, regardless of what the other firm chooses. A firm's dominant strategy is the strategy that earns it a larger payoff. Neither does prisoner 1 or 2 have a dominant strategy, because their best decisions change depending on the other prisoner. Neither have a single strategy that would always result in the best outcome. This example represents how firms would cooperate or compete against each other. Now let's look at firms in an oligopoly market. Let's say there are two airlines, Airline A and Airline B. If Airline A chooses to advertise and Airline B chooses to advertise, it would gain 6 euros. But if it chooses not to advertise, it would only gain 3 euros. And if Airline A chooses not to advertise and Airline B chooses to advertise, it would only gain 8 euros. But if it chooses not to advertise, it would only gain 5 euros. Same goes for Airline A. If Airline B chooses to advertise and Airline A chooses to advertise, it would only gain 6 euros. But if it chooses not to advertise, it would only gain 3 euros. And if Airline B chooses not to advertise and Airline A advertises, it would gain 8 euros. But if it chooses not to advertise, it would only gain 5 euros. Now let's try and figure out each airline's dominant strategy. If Airline B advertises, then Airline A should advertise, because they would gain 6 euros instead of 3 euros. If Airline B doesn't advertise, then Airline A should still advertise, because it would gain 8 euros instead of 5 euros. Therefore, Airline A's dominant strategy would be to advertise, because it would gain more, regardless of what Airline B does, if it advertises. Now that we know what Airline A's dominant strategy is, let's figure out Airline B's dominant strategy. If Airline A advertises, then Airline B should advertise, because they would gain 6 euros instead of 3 euros. And if Airline A doesn't advertise, then Airline B should still advertise, because it would gain 8 euros instead of 5 euros. Therefore, Airline B's dominant strategy would be to advertise, because it would gain more regardless of what Airline A does, if it advertises.